Just recently, I started working with a client who is actually moving out of Fort Collins to the East Coast. And the reason why really got me thinking as to what are some reasons people are moving out of Fort Collins. You've probably seen some of my videos of pros and cons of Fort Collins, reasons not to move to Fort Collins, and then all of the wonderful things why I think Fort Collins is such a great place to live in northern Colorado in general. But there are absolutely reasons why Fort Collins might not be the fit for you and could be a reason why people who have been here for many, many years are moving out. So this information is hopefully helpful for you to understand what Fort Collins is all about, and if maybe on the surface they check a lot of boxes, but when you really dive in, things just don't necessarily match up. And I think one of the things that I have absolutely loved doing on this channel and working with so many people from across the country, I am a licensed real estate agent, so I'm helping people buy, sell, and invest here. So if you're considering moving to Fort Collins, definitely feel free to call, text, or email. We'd be happy to help you. But it is something that I don't necessarily want or care to sell people on Fort Collins, besides provide them all of the information necessary for them to make the right decision. I feel like once that person or individual is sold on Fort Collins in northern Colorado upon their own research, findings out, and exploring the community, then it's just a matter of having fun and finding the right area and location for them and their families or their pets, whatever that might look like here in northern Colorado. And it's a wonderful experience. So these videos are here to help you decide what is best for you and yours. So without any further delay, we are going to talk about the 5 reasons why people are moving out of Fort Collins. What's up, everybody? My name is Patrick Soukup with Soukup Real Estate Services here in Fort Collins, Colorado. If you're new to the channel, please consider giving it a subscribe if you're looking to learn everything there is to know about northern Colorado and Fort Collins. Without any further delay, let's jump in. So, reason number 1. The population growth. Fort Collins has grown pretty substantially. My folks moved here in the 60s when the furthest street south was Prospect Road. And we are on a grid system. All of our major arteries are separated by about a mile. And we now have Prospect, Drake, Horsetooth, Harmony, and Trilby. So it's grown 4 miles south, and actually really has continued to grow further south to Carpenter and beyond into Loveland. That's not even talking about east and west expansion. Now, as we've discussed in previous videos, Fort Collins is kind of landlocked with the mountains, Wellington to the north, Loveland to the south, and then Timnath and Windsor to our east. So there's only so much that Fort Collins can grow, but there has been a ton of people moving to Fort Collins really throughout the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s, when continually Fort Collins is listed as a best place to live, best place to raise a family, safest place to live, best college town, you name it, Fort Collins continues to make lists. So the people who are living here and who are used to a small community where pretty much you know everybody. Now, it wouldn't be like Haxton, Colorado, where my sister lives, where there's only a population of 1,000 and pretty much everybody knows each other's business. Fort Collins was long ago not that. But now there is definitely a feel of a bigger town, small city that Fort Collins old-time residents might not necessarily like. So that population growth might not necessarily be too appealing. They might like that small town rural feel, and that might be one of the reasons they are moving out of Fort Collins. Number 2, the reason why these clients of mine are moving out of Fort Collins is over the last 2 years, we've had 2 pretty substantial fires. Not necessarily in Colorado. We had the Cameron Peak Fire, which was in Colorado in 2020, and it was terrible. Smoke in the air, ashes on your cars, green skies for days on end. It felt like the world was on fire. California, Oregon, and Colorado was not saved from that. In 2021, end of 2021, beginning of 2022, we had the Marshall Fire in Boulder. That it was definitely something that was the most destructive fire in Colorado and in Boulder, destroying over about 1,200 structures. And in the summer of 2021, even though we didn't necessarily have fires, California and Oregon did, and those fires kind of smoke and soot, not soot, but smoke carried its way all the way to Colorado. And so during the summer, it was pretty hazy, pretty smoky, and not that fun. Now, previous to that, I really can remember the 2012 fire that we had. So there was a good 8 years between big fires. Now, that human touch is something that is very frustrating and causes significant damage, so hopefully we can kind of get that underway. But there are articles out there that suggest that Larimer County and Colorado might have more fires due to the drought and arid climate. So that was the reason that these folks are moving out of Colorado and over to the East Coast. So reason number 2, the wildfires that we've had and had in the past concerning moving forward. So those folks are moving out of Colorado for that reason. Number 3 is politically. So Fort Collins is a growing community. Population has been increasing pretty dramatically. We would have been more of a rural town, definitely in the 60s when my parents moved here, and continuing in with a farming, agricultural kind of backbone with the Colorado State as our major employer, but a rural feel, which, historically speaking, rural is a pretty red conservative political affiliation. As you grow, as the population increases, as it becomes more of a metro city, it tend to historically turn more blue. So I would say over the basically 2000s and into the 2010s, we became more purple. And I would say even today, we are probably more blue than we are anything. Now, our neighbor Weld County to the east of us is definitely very, very staunch conservative, very red, rural area. But the individuals that have been here for a really long time, families that have grown up in this kind of more conservative, Republican type county, has maybe seen their political viewpoints change, and they don't necessarily affiliate themselves with this community anymore, so they find themselves moving to Wyoming or east into Weld County or out of the state entirely. Now, I can definitely tell you that the one thing I think everyone can agree with in Fort Collins politically is that we do not have any desire to be Boulder 2.0. Restrict growth, have these huge barriers upon entry, and which just drives the price and drives the affordability out of question. And so we are trying to avoid becoming a Boulder 2.0, both on housing cost and kind of this snobbiness. Sorry, my Boulder friends to the south. It's just kind of the feel, I guess, that us Fort Collins folks have here. Maybe us good old boys. I don't know what you want to call it, but we are trying to avoid that. So I think pretty much our entire population can genuinely agree that we are not trying to become a Boulder 2.0, even though a lot of the things that we are doing might be considered to be in line with that kind of path. So we will see as time goes. Which then leads me into reason number 4. Reason why folks are moving out of Fort Collins is the cost of housing. It is something that the Coloradoan just had an article that suggested that 92% of people feel that the cost of housing in Fort Collins is untenable. That means only 8% of the people in Fort Collins believe that it is something that is within reason. This can be attributed to a lot of different things. Population growth, our supply chain issues since 2020. But I just was also reading an article. This market in Colorado has been hot for many, many years. It has just been, I guess pun intended, because of reason number 2 of wildfires, is this Colorado real estate market has been on fire for the last 2 years with no signs of slowing down. Between the supply chain issues, labor and materials, the demand when interest rates have dropped and now are picking up and people are trying to get in prior to increasing rates too much, and just the general population increase, supply, demand, prices increase, basic economics, and we don't necessarily see that slowing down, which the purchase prices of homes are then trickling into the rental rates, And it will be a very big topic of discussion. It continues to be a topic of discussion with our city council and individuals with decision-making powers, that housing affordability in Fort Collins and Northern Colorado is definitely in the forefront of everyone's minds and trying to address that head on. So the reason number 4 that people are moving out of Fort Collins, and that moving out of Fort Collins could be as simple as to Wellington, Severance, Timnath, Windsor, Johnstown, Loveland, Greeley, Evans, anywhere that is still close to Northern Colorado, maybe still being able to work in Fort Collins, but able to afford either more space, more land, or just a more affordable rent. So not necessarily having to move out of Colorado or out of, Northern Colorado, just moving out of kind of Fort Collins proper. Which then, the final reason number 5, why people are moving out of Fort Collins, and I think this is the great migration, the great reshuffling of the United States that we have seen, is cashing out on these properties that either they've lived in for as little as 2 years with 20% appreciation, high teens over the last 2 years, or 5, 6, 7, 10 years, and moving to Idaho or South Dakota, Midwest, the Sun Belt, Rust Belt, different areas where people can take this massive amount of equity and move it into an area of much more affordable housing and be able to either retain their working remotely jobs or figure out something new in a new area. But I would say that's reason number 5, is there is a ton of equity that people have and can move and transition into a more affordable area or pay off a house. But it has been a pretty cool discussion having, and I would say that actually, me and my wife has had these conversations of like, hey, let's sell everything, go retire. And just recently on my social media, I had a poll that said, if you could retire today, would you? And my wife and I continue to have the conversation that we believe purpose is extremely important in one's life. We love what we do. We love living in Northern Colorado. Our family is here. Our friends are here. So we play with the idea, but ultimately choose to stay here in Fort Collins. So there you have it, folks. The 5 reasons why people who are currently living in Fort Collins are moving out of Fort Collins, whether that be just to the surrounding areas or out of the state in general. Hopefully this information has been valuable and informative to you when you are making your decision of whether or not Fort Collins, Northern Colorado, or Colorado in general is the choice for you and your family. So again, I am a licensed real estate agent. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed the content. Give it a thumbs up, comment, and subscribe. But better than that, if you are considering buying a home here in Northern Colorado, give me a call, text, or email. I'd love to help, love to answer more questions. Take care. Until next time.